Hey everybody, today we're going to be showing you how super easy it is to install SuperATV's Deluxe turn signal kit on this Can-Am Maverick 1000. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is jump right in, remove the passenger side seat. Then we're going to go through and we're going to remove all of the push pins securing the passenger side panel. Go ahead and pull the panel out of the way and set it aside. Open up the glove box. And there's going to be this piece right here on top. We're just going to grab a hold of it and pull it straight out. There's going to be two 2mm bolts that are securing the glove box to the machine. We're going to go ahead and remove those. Grab a hold of the glove box and pull it straight back to you. And it's just going to come right out of the machine. Then we're going to remove the two screws located here and here, as well as the two push pins, one located here and then one directly on the opposite side. Once we've removed all the hardware, we're going to go ahead and slide this back. We're going to grab our rocker switch panel. We're going to lay it right into place, just like this, and we're going to use it as a template to tap our holes. You can use a self-tapper, and all you'd have to do is just lay this into place, run your self-tappers in, and you'd be good to go. Or you could drill them, and then you could use a nut and a bolt. You're gonna wanna cut a spot out right here. That way we can feed our harness up through here. And make sure whenever you're drilling your holes, or you're cutting this piece out, that there's no wiring behind there, that you're not drilling into any other plastic. That's why we tell you to remove it. That way you can kind of sit it up out of the way, or if you wanted to, you could disconnect it from the machine, sit it on a bench and do it. What we did, we just pulled it up out of the way, drilled our holes, and then we just ground the spot out right here, large enough that our wiring will fit through, and all this will be completely covered up whenever the switch plate is installed. So we got our holes drilled. Now what we're gonna do, we're gonna go up underneath the dash, and we're gonna remove these 4 screws. Once we've removed all 4 screws, we're just gonna set these aside for the time being. Then we're gonna mount our control box to our control box bracket. We have the M5 screws as well as M5 nylock nuts and 4 flat washers. We're just going to go through and get all our hardware started. Once it's all started, we'll go ahead and fully tighten it. Once we have our control box mounted to our bracket, we're going to use the previously removed screws from the dash of the machine to attach the control box and bracket. We're going to grab the power wire, which is going to be the gray wire, and then it's going to have the red and the black, as well as the fuse and fuse holder coming off of it. Then we're going to run it directly over top of the plastic. So if you reach up underneath your dash, almost to your hood, you're going to feel a line of plastic there. Feed them right over top. Then on your factory harness, you may have covers on each of these, or dummy plugs if you would. The one that we're looking for is going to be the 2-pin with the black and the red. That's going to connect in to our harness, just like this. And that's going to be what powers up the turn signal kit. This right here is going to be the fuse holder, and this is a fuse holder cover. We like to take just a bolt and a nut, put the fuse holder onto the frame of the machine. That way you can just reach in here, plug it directly in, and it's all sealed up and out of the way, and if you ever needed to change your fuse, it's readily accessible. So the next portion of the harness that we're looking for is going to be the portion that has all 3 of the rocker switch plugs on it. We're going to route that the same way. We're going to go right over top, start feeding them through the same way we did to the power wire harness. Before we can get our front harness installed, we need to go ahead and remove our hood, grab our harness, and we're going to take this plug that has 4 pins on it. It'll look just like this. And we're going to feed it up into the dash, and then we're going to connect it to the control box. And here's that piece of plastic that we've been feeding the wires over top. We're just going to go ahead and start feeding the wires right over top, just like we have been. We're just going to give ourselves enough slack. Once we're back inside, we're going to go to the plugs coming off the control box, find the harness labeled front, and we're going to plug the 2 harnesses together. make sure that they snap, and then we're gonna head back out to the front and start wiring in our lights. We're gonna have 3 separate pieces of wire here. So what we're gonna be looking for is the tag on the end. This one's gonna say left signal. So we're gonna get it going towards the driver's side. And then we know this big one, it's gonna be right signal. So we're gonna go ahead and lay it over here. And then the last one, this is gonna be for our horn. So we're just gonna leave it right here in the center. Next thing that we're gonna do is, we're gonna drill our holes for our indicator lights. The awesome thing about SuperATV's turn signal kit is you can drill the holes anywhere you'd like. We leave you enough harness to put it, you know, if you wanted to put one right here, one right here, one right here, or if you just want to run one on each side, if you want to run 2 on the one side, 1 on the other, you can do any of that. After we've drilled our hole with the step bit, we're gonna take our harness with our indicator light on it. We're gonna pop the grommet off. We're just gonna take this grommet, make sure that it fits in the hole good. And then the trick to getting these in here without rolling that grommet over is just to kind of wiggle them around a little bit and put some pressure on the back side of them. And they should go in just like that. Now that we have our turn signal indicators in place, we're gonna take our harnesses that coordinates with which side we're working on. We're on the passenger side, so we're gonna grab the right side. We're gonna run it right behind the radiator, and we're gonna try to keep it tucked as far forward as we can. That way we just keep it looking as clean as possible. And then what you can do, because there's enough wire, you can pull the harness out away from the machine, just like this. Plug it in. Then you can do the exact same thing over here. And you just want to make sure that they fully snap together. You're going to notice you have quite a bit of slack. We do this, you know, because this kit fits different makes and models, but it's perfectly okay for this specific harness to take it, loop it together just like this, then take one of the provided zip ties in the kit, zip tie the excess wiring together, take all my excess wire, and then just route it right down behind the coolant tank. Then for the driver's side, what I like to do is I like to take the harness and run it behind the air box. This is just a personal preference way of routing them. It does take a little bit more time. We're just gonna come right in here, plug both of our connections in, and we're gonna grab a hold of all the slack and pull it tight. But this time we're gonna tuck our excess in behind the air box. So the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna mount up our horn. And this horn can be mounted anywhere. It doesn't matter if you want to mount it right here, if you want to mount it here. But what we found best is to go onto the shock mount, and there's a hole just big enough that you can slide the stud of the horn through. Once we have it in place, we're just gonna reach through and get our nut started on the back side of it. So now that we have our horn installed, we're gonna take the harness and we're gonna plug it on to each of the spades. Then we're gonna do the same thing as we did with our other portions of the harness, with the horn harness. We're just gonna route it right back, tuck it in behind the air box, throw a zip tie on it. So next we're gonna start running our rear portion of the harness. The way I like to do it is to start in the rear with the connector that's gonna connect to the control box. We're gonna slide it right back in behind the battery. There's gonna be an opening that's gonna lead down towards the engine and transmission. We're just gonna get our wires started down in there, and then we're gonna come back to the inside, start running our wire all the way down through here. Getting plenty of excess here. And we're gonna slide it right up in between these 2 trim panels. See, there we got it. We're gonna take our harness and we're gonna run it right over top of the same piece of plastic we've been running our harnesses over. So we're gonna make sure no wires are tangled up or anything like that. We're gonna locate the rear portion of the harness on the control box, which will be the last open connector. We're gonna connect them, and then we're gonna head back to the rear. We're gonna take a look at our harness here, and we're gonna locate the right rear, or passenger side rear. It's gonna be the side that we're first gonna be wiring up. So if you look right here, there's gonna be a tag, it's gonna say right rear. So we've located it, we're gonna sit it over here, and we're gonna go right up here. You're gonna see there's a connector. What you're gonna do, you're just gonna pull it up and out just like that. And it'll look just like this. You're gonna go ahead and unplug it. So once you've done that, you're gonna grab your harness from SuperATV, and you're gonna take the female end on the harness side, on the SuperATV harness, and plug it into the male end on the factory harness. And you're gonna take the male end on the SuperATV harness and plug it in to the female end on the factory harness. Then you can utilize the factory clip to reattach the harness to the plastic on the machine. And we're gonna head on over to the driver's side. And at this point, what I like to do, I like to run both my connections behind the battery. So I'm just gonna feed all the harness back towards the engine. We're gonna come in here and do the same exact thing. We're gonna take the female on the SuperATV to the male on the factory. Then take the male on the SuperATV to the female on the factory. Snapped in, good. Utilize the factory clip. Clip it right back to the plastic where it was. Then there'll be another clip back over here. On the factory harness, you can just clip that right to the plastic as well. We're not gonna be installing a license plate light, so all we're gonna do, just take all this wire, coil it up, tuck it up against the back side of the machine, and zip tie it. Then we're gonna head back into the machine. The awesome thing about these Mavericks is what you can do with this excess wiring, you can actually tuck it up underneath of the floorboard, and it's gonna stay out of the way. So now that we have all of our wires ran, everything's tucked out of the way, cleaned up, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our rocker switch wires and we're just gonna feed our plugs in. We cut a nice little triangle. So what we do is we just slide them in sideways. So we have all of our rocker switch wires fed through. Now what we're gonna do, we're just gonna slowly slide this back into place. Then we're gonna take our switch panel and we're gonna lay these out just how we like them. I'm gonna put the turn signal on the far left, closest to the driver. Then in the center, I'm gonna have my hazards. And then on the far right, I'm gonna have my horn. We're gonna plug them all in. You're gonna make sure that the pins line up. And we'll just go ahead and turn the key on. Make sure that our turn signals are working. And we're gonna plug our hazards in the same way. And then lastly is gonna be our horn. So they're all hooked up. We're gonna go through. We're gonna test our horn out. Horn's working good. Now we're gonna check our hazards to ensure that all of the turning signal lights are functioning properly. So we're gonna go ahead and pop our rocker switches through our switch panel here. And then we have a bunch of excess. So you can do one of two things, or you can do both. I recommend feeding the biggest portion of the harness back into the dash. And then because it really doesn't matter what's behind here once the switch panel goes in, I recommend taking this wire and just angling them away from each other. That way it doesn't push too hard out onto this panel, and just tuck everything in there as tight as you can get it. Then once we have this all in place, we're gonna go through, make sure that all our wires are where we want them. We've already checked, ours are good to go, so we're gonna go ahead and reinstall all the push pins. Then we're gonna reinstall our console. Go through, make sure your hardware is fully tightened and all your wiring's tied up out of the way. And that's how super easy it is to install SuperATV's Deluxe turn signal kit on this Can-Am Maverick 1000. For more information on this turn signal kit, or any of SuperATV's great products, feel free to give us a call at 855-743-3427 or check us out online at superatv.com. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.